The most important election for years.
Gotta have your light on if it's not.
Wait till Alicia's.
Oh, it's time to wake up.
Time to wake up. And call the Plan Commission meeting for December 20th to order. We have a roll call, Chris. Oh,
I have a job today.
all right. Okay, we're going to Alicia.
All right, Angela Holt. Here. Frank Pulver.
Here.
Bill Van Wy.
Present.
Mike Watson.
Here.
Sandy Harrison. Glenn Crawford. Jerry Yoder.
Here.
Suzanne Davis. Jason Carnahan.
Here.
Don Myers. Alicia Rogers. Here. Andrew Cruz.
Here.
Chris Gallmer. Here. All right.
House. Have rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Now have an opportunity for a word of prayer, if someone is so moved.
Let's bow our heads. Father God, we just want to thank you, Lord, for all the many blessings you give to us in this county. And we can't wait to see all the many blessings that you're bringing to us. Lord, we just at this time want to invite you into this meeting, that we make decisions for your favor and for the good favor of this county. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
In your packet, you should have the minutes from the October meeting. If you've had a chance to review them, I would entertain a motion to approve or edit them.
I move to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
I have a motion and second to approve meeting minutes from the previous meeting.
Before I forget, just one thing that I did add in the minutes. I can find the recorded copy, or the copy to be recorded. I added on the vote of who voted how for each of those motions. So on page 14 and the top of page 15, they're not in your packets, but I did add who voted yes and who voted no for each of those motions, just so we have that on record in the minutes. It's on record with our packet file, but just so it's on record in the minutes as well. Sorry.
Assuming the motion to approve still stands after the update.
Maybe there should be a new motion to
Yeah, maybe
approve
we should.
with the as amended.
Yeah, probably should be.
I move to approve as amended.
We have a motion and a second to approve the amended minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. We also have the list of claims for October and November. I would entertain a motion for those as well.
So move.
Second.
That motion and second to approve the claims for October, November. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, claims are approved. Any old business, Chris? New business is, first thing on our new business is the attorney agreement for Mr. Cruz.
That is in your packet. The fees for 2023 and 2024 remain the same, remains the same for 2024 as it was in 2023. So Andrew, if you want to add anything to that.
I'm willing to keep the fees the same for this year, and I would like the opportunity to keep going.
I would move.
I would too.
I'll move to approve the agreement with Attorney Cruz for 2024.
Second it.
Is that a unanimous vote or a roll call vote?
I do a roll call.
Alicia, can we have a roll call vote?
Jason Carnahan,
Yes.
Frank Pulver,
Yes.
Bill Van Wy,
Yes.
Mike Watson,
Absolutely, yes.
Glenn Crawford,
Yes.
Jerry Yoder,
Yes.
Suzanne Davis. Yes. Angie Holt.
Yes.
Look at you go.
There's a lot of excitement in that vote, I think.
Who is ever that excited for an attorney?
So
Yes, but.
glad I can.
Okay, the next order is the update and revisions on the Auburn ETJ. Chris?
I met with the City of Auburn Planning and Zoning staff, Kelly Nauer and Jim.
That right?
Thank you. Was going to butcher his name, so I didn't want to say it. And there were just some things in the actual agreement. We're not proposing any changes to the map right now, but just to the agreement itself, which are highlighted in yellow. Part of it was just, it needed an update. It was 2017 when the previous administration and I rewrote this, and it was just due for an update. On page 2, we cannot restrict or prohibit residential uses from being built in the flood fringe because they can meet the flood hazard ordinance that the City of Auburn has and DeKalb County has that requires them, if they are in the fringe, to build 2 feet above what's called the BFE or the base flood elevation. If they meet that threshold, we can't stop them from building. So we wanted to revise that to state that they can build in the flood fringe unless the structure meets or exceeds the local flood control ordinance and has a permit that is issued. It just makes more sense to have something more broad like that gives, if they meet the flood control ordinance, then they can build. And then nowhere else does it require, in our ordinance, even in our flood control ordinance, require homes within 75 feet of the flood fringe to have an established elevation where the lowest habitable floor is 2 feet above the base flood elevation. It just is nowhere in an ordinance, and I don't know why we put it in there. I think we carried it over from probably when a previous administration was in office, and it's just something that isn't in any of our ordinances to require, so we didn't know why it was required in the interlocal. Does everybody know what the ETJ is, by the way? Does everyone understand what it is? Okay. Guess I should have started with that. One thing that we wanted to make sure of, because it was nowhere in our interlocal agreement stated who has enforcement capabilities that are not in the zoning ordinance. So for instance, we have what's called the public nuisance ordinance that the commissioners adopted probably in 2021, maybe 2022. And so if it's not stated in, if a use or violation is not stated in their zoning ordinance, we can enforce it through our public nuisance ordinance, such as trash, accumulation of abandoned or disabled vehicles, typically things like that. We do not control tall grass and weeds. Typically, that's something that the township trustees can enforce, or they call it noxious weeds, I think. So we wanted to make sure that enforcement in the ETJ would not include things such as our public nuisance ordinance for DeKalb County that we would take, that the compliance official takes care of. Just some cleanup on page 6. We wanted to make sure that if a proposal or an application meets the criteria, we just wanted to actually state that anyone can propose anything, but it doesn't actually become a petition until an application is filed. So we wanted to make sure that was in there. So one thing that we have ran into is that, so in the ETJ, we have a 300-foot buffer that surrounds new development that is connected to city sewer. I'd bring up a map, but it would take too long. For those that don't know, so like in Bear Creek, for instance, when the new city water and sewer gets installed, and it's automatic, the ETJ is automatically extended 300 feet from that water and sewer line. So theoretically, there's an imaginary line that could straddle. A property could be in two zoning districts, an Auburn zoning district and a DeKalb County zoning district. So we wanted to state that how, and sometimes we're confused on whose it should be in. So we wanted to make sure that we had it clearly stated in here. And basically, we're just revising it to include that any parcel that straddles an imaginary line created by applying the static or dynamic rules shall be in the city's planning jurisdiction, and the property shall be included in the extraterritorial jurisdiction and the City of Auburn and DeKalb County GIS map adjusted to reflect such change. So that way, if it straddles that line, it automatically gets put into the Auburn ETJ. It just makes our job easier. People that look on Beacon, and now our zoning has been put on Beacon, actually stating what, so if you pull up your property record card, you can see what your zoning is. If you straddle a line, for instance, sometimes, Alicia, yours, if you lived in DeKalb County, could be A1 or A2 if there's a weird straddling of the line. When people often call and they say, well, I'm an ETJ and A2, what does that mean? So it'll help clear up those sort of things as well.
What was the rule on that, Chris, prior to this for any land that was straddled? Like, what's the actual, I guess, agreement or ordinance on that?
So we only had 5.3, which is above that. So before it was, if you utilize city sewer or water or any portion of the parcel was within 300 feet of the city sewer or water service, may be considered the city's planning jurisdiction.
So
But you had to meet two of those, that the city wishes to be served by city sewer and water. And there's documentation indicating that the city has capacity. So you had to meet those two things.
What about just straddling the line? No city sewer and water, it's just the ETJ circle around Auburn straddles a piece of property. What was the rule on that
So,
prior to that? Because there was some rule on that already.
correct. Before it was, if you're 50% or more of the lot is fully within the city's ETJ, which we still have that there.
Is that still
that's-
applying even with this change here? Because this change doesn't talk about 50%, it talks about if it straddles the line 1%, it would be covered. So that's what I'm just thinking, if there's a change there
That's
that
good.
might happen that we're not aware of.
Yeah. I will bring that up I'll ask Kelly and Jim and see what we think.
It might not affect that many people, but it's something to think about.
Because we probably should just scratch that. If even 1%'s in, it's.
Because
that
let's say
would-
you got
that
a
would be
big
out of the question.
development project that straddles the line, but it's 49%, this ordinance might flip it.
Unless they were wanting to be served by city sewer and water.
Yeah, and then it would
Right,
automatically.
if they
So it
didn't
may
want to
not
be.
matter in anything, but I'm just saying there could be
Okay.
a couple of lots like that. I don't know. And it may not matter, and the commissioners in the city may not care, I don't know.
It's a good question. I'll ask that and get back to you. Nothing else in the rest of the agreement changed. Like I said, there were just some things that were a little confusing that we wanted to get updated. We do plan to hopefully get the map updated when the city of Garrett, when we update the city of Garrett's in probably about 2 or 3 years, we'll fix some lines that are a little not blurred, but there's no hard boundaries like a road or a creek or a railroad or something that gives a definite boundary. Right now, we have it, County Road 19 and County Road 17. County Road 19 doesn't go all the way south of 52. It stops at 52, so we were thinking to take it to County Road 17. We've had one issue where Custer's sold a strip of land to a neighboring parcel that is platted, wants to build a garage on that parcel, but it's in Auburn's ETJ. Well, that parcel, it's not even a lot, doesn't meet their standards for a buildable parcel, nor would it be able to meet setbacks. To change it to Garrett's ETJ or Auburn's ETJ, both agreements would have to come back to us, and right now there's not that agreement to come together and have a kumbaya moment, as I say. So we're probably just gonna wait till Garrett's is up for revisions to revisit that boundary.
They did figure a way for them to build their garage, though. Kelly did.
They did?
Yeah, Kelly
Okay,
and Jim did, yeah.
that's good. So with that, we were hoping for a January 17th or January 16th effective date. It does have to go to county commissioners, does have to go to city council as well. Don or Mike, it went to Plan Commission December 12th, is that right?
Yes.
And was discussed and didn't have any issues. I will take that question forward, and if the Plan Commission would be okay with it, just so this can keep moving forward, I'd like to discuss it with Kelly and Jim and just get back with Andrew.
It may not be a problem what I brought up because it's
Well-
just on this subset of it, but.
Yeah,
I was just-
but I think it's something that we could discuss, and I could just get back with you on as far as
Yeah.
what we were thinking, or just have a conference call.
We can do like an approval with a condition that gets satisfied or something?
Yeah. If that's okay with everybody. If not, I'm fine bringing it back in January. We'd probably still meet although, yeah.
Well, this.
Actually, the 17th is when we would meet anyway, so.
This says the straddling the line shall be in the city's jurisdiction if either of the statements are true. So it still has the 50% or more of the lots within the city's jurisdiction. I see that now in 5.42 at the bottom. There's still a 50% rule there.
Correct, sorry.
So I think it's okay.
Maybe I was confused, or maybe I was just, it's been a while since we've reviewed
Yeah, I
this,
mean,
but-
maybe I was reading the top part separate from that, and so, I don't know. It still looks like there's a 50%.
Yeah, the 50% is still there. I want to read this to myself. Okay, I was wrong. Andrew, you're correct.
Okay.
So the 50% still is there.
Okay.
You have to be 50% or more for the map to change.
Yep,
So if you're at
okay.
49%, the map would change to be in county's jurisdiction.
Right.
If you're 50% or more, you would be,
Right.
if you're at 51%, you
Which
would
is
be
the way
in.
it is now
Correct.
under the rules.
It just better
yeah.
states it.
So I have no
And
concerns because
what we're
that's
doing is-
consistent with that.
What we're doing here, now that I'm remembering, sorry guys, is that we wanted the map to reflect the change versus it just being that imaginary line straddling straddling one parcel. We want the actual physical map on GIS to change. I think we're okay.
There
Yep,
can't be
I
that
would
many,
agree.
there can't be that many parcels that would even be, though.
So only really around where that 300-foot buffer is. So around Bear Creek, around the eastern and northern part of Auburn there is, but the southern part, like where Heron Lake and where I-69 and 11A intersect, that whole area is definite boundaries.
Right.
But there are areas where it's that 300-foot buffer that it can get a little sketchy
So
at.
on 52 and 29, the original sewer and water for Bear Creek went out 29 and then went east on 52. Okay, so that was Auburn ETJ. So now with this, you're saying that on the south side of 52 would still be Auburn's ETJ, is that correct?
I'd have to look at the map.
Prior to this, we didn't have, I mean, like that was where it ended. So now if there's a new addition to Bear Creek, correct?
Right.
Are they running sewer and water in addition to what's already there?
The addition would have to get sewer and water extended to it.
From what's already there, or are they
Correct.
running new?
No, from what's already there.
Okay.
They're just running it from wherever it
This
stopped at Bear
change
Creek.
then on the south side of 52 would become more of Auburn jurisdiction. Is that correct?
It already is. So all of Bear Creek is in Auburn's jurisdiction.
But just Bear Creek?
Correct. Correct. But this will be good for me to do. So there are areas where that city sewer and water line that runs in the middle of the road, that 300 foot goes into other people's parcels down here. So because this parcel here, for instance, good, right? So that parcel here, it wouldn't equal that 50%. So that line would now go up to the edge of Bear Creek.
So the 300 feet goes from the line itself?
The line itself,
So why wouldn't it just grab the parcel that it's attached to it?
because of how we wrote it in the ordinance, or how we wrote it in the
It would be
agreement.
easier if it was like you attach to it, your parcel's highlighted.
Yeah, yeah. Now, though, with this change, GIS maps would change to reflect that. Versus being that 300-foot buffer, we'd take the 300-foot buffer, and then we'd have to do some math if it's a smaller parcel
Right.
to figure out if it's 50% or more. If it is, we'll include it in Auburn's. If it's not, we'll include it. Does that answer your question at all?
Sort of.
You were asking south of 52. So right now, this is Bear Creek. Everything outside of it, except for this parcel that did connect to city sewer and water through Bear Creek, is in the county's jurisdiction. This parcel here, for instance, which is probably, it's part of Bear Creek already, but it's just the retention ponds, that will become part of Auburn's ETJ because it's 50% or more of that ETJ straddles 50% or more of the parcel. The line that goes down 52 to get to Bear Creek, from 29 over, all of those parcels will have to be adjusted to meet this new standard. So we'll have to do calculations for these parcels at 29 and 52.
That's on the south side of 52.
Correct, south side of 52, to figure out if they are
Okay.
within, if they are 50% or more.
Well, and the line goes all the way down to Lakewood Park's 150-acre parcel, doesn't it?
Correct.
So any land around Lakewood Park or within 300 feet of the line, which might go down straight through, that may not matter. But
So Lakewood Park is in Auburn's ETJ?
I don't know about that. It's hooked up to their sewer.
It's hooked up to their sewer, so the line can go down a maximum of 2 miles outside of the city's
Okay,
boundaries.
yeah, because I don't think they're in the ETJ.
I don't think so. I didn't
No.
think it was.
So the line stops at,
52.
no, it stops at, I can't can't do this backwards.
By the rule, wouldn't that make a line of ETJ extend down there? Or not? Because, I mean, if it runs down the road, there would be 600-foot wide band of,
You can't go out past 2 miles, though.
Right, and it's
In an
just
ETJ
south
at all.
of, it's just south of County Road 56 is where it stops.
Regardless
And that's the
of
2
where the
mile,
sewer is.
that's the 2 mile boundary.
Yeah.
and that's in there also then? It gets
So it goes down to the school, it actually goes down to the airport, but the airport is not part of the ETJ because it's more than 2 miles outside of the city limits.
So up to the 2 miles, is it part of the ETJ?
Yes, if it's 2 miles or under.
State code only allows extraterritorial jurisdiction 2 miles outside of a city's
Right.
jurisdiction. When I worked in Logansport and Cass County and Logansport's interlocal agreement was 2 miles. That way there's no static or dynamic. They had this static and dynamic that worked for them. There's no sense in changing that formula now because it's just been in place for too long. But some jurisdictions just we want to have 2 miles outside, and the county agreed to allow them to have jurisdiction, the full maximum state allotment. But in our case, we have this.
I think what you might be asking are these changes going to flip a lot of property from
Well, that's what I wondered,
the
yeah.
county jurisdiction to the city jurisdiction?
No, because it still applies today. That if you are 50% or more, you're automatically, thanks, Mike,
Doesn't change that.
you're automatically in the Auburn ETJ.
Okay.
What we're changing is, again, the physical map will change so it reflects that, so that
You're not trying to
there's
flip
not confusion.
properties
No,
in and out of it.
no.
You're just trying to change the map to reflect the way it is.
Correct, correct.
Okay.
What we need to do is to figure out some way to give the airport to the city of Auburn. Whoops, we just extended it right out there to,
Well, that'd be annexation, and they could
well, let's
they
do
could go that
How
route,
can
but
we do that?
I doubt it. Not the best idea you've had.
Might not be the worst, but.
Yeah. Thought.
If any of you have
We
more
did it for
questions
Bear
on this, I'd be
Creek,
happy
why
to
not?
meet with you on it. It's just, we were hoping to clean up the language to better help us in the mapping. And I got real confused during that whole thing, so I apologize.
Squared up now.
I'm squared up, if you are.
I think I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Any more discussion on that? Entertain a motion to approve or deny, I guess, that the changes.
Make a motion to approve.
A roll call on that one too.
Yes, please.
Alicia, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Jason Carnahan,
Yes.
Frank Pulver, Bill Van Wyn,
Yes.
Glenn Crawford,
Yes.
Jerry Yoder,
Yes.
Suzanne Davis, Angie Holt.
Yes.
How many was that?
7.
Next on our agenda would be our updated fee schedule. Chris, you want to go over what you proposed on the fee schedule? This is all stuff we already looked at, right?
Yeah, this is stuff we looked at the October 3rd meeting, where we were down in the prosecutor's office for a short bit and then came up here. There's nothing else that I proposed changes to that's different than what you looked at, except for I'm asking that we have, there's often times where realtors or property appraisers will ask for zoning affidavit or conformance letters that are usually 4 or 5 pages long. It includes a lot of, maybe an hour's worth of research on my part as far as putting in what the zoning is. If they've had any, if they went through the plan commission, we include files for, they want copies of those files. If there's Board of Zoning Appeals cases that the property has gone through, they would like copies of that case file. So, and just kind of, if there's anything legal conforming or legal non-conforming or illegal non-conforming on the property, they want to know that. So we typically haven't ever charged for those letters. Some municipalities do. You know, they often ask if we charge for the letters because they know that most of them do. So if there's any objection to those, I would add that as something to add, but everything else, I believe, has stayed the same from what we discussed before.
Is there any discussion on the proposed fee schedule changes? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Yeah, Chris, the appeal decision of the zoning administrator, that's a pretty healthy increase on your part. Is that,
It's exactly the one I was looking at. Why, what?
We never get them. Typically,
Okay, well, I was gonna.
I've never had one in the, gosh, how long have I been doing county work here? For 7 years, and then before that, I was 8 years in Cass County. I've never had anyone appeal the decision to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Because that would,
Typically, if the decision's been made by the zoning administrator that they don't meet the setback, they can request a variance, which is cheaper than appealing my decision. I guess the decision could be to appeal if somebody came in and wanted, like that compost facility that we heard at the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Sure.
They could have said, well, that's an agricultural use. Why can we not do that on this property? They could fight that I was claiming it to be the wrong type of use. The fees should not deter development, but they should also make people, it shouldn't be something that it should be $50 for people to then appeal every decision that's made. But again, I've not had anybody appeal a decision and
so does that have any
Ever.
attorney fees in it then?
any
That 1,000, would that incur attorney fees
no. So if
in that decision?
no, so Andrew would be part of the meeting, and that would be part of his
Standard fee if it's a regular meeting.
right, right. No added cost.
Okay.
We can change that
No,
if you want, or I just think it helps deter people from wanting to appeal the decision.
exactly.
okay. What I wanted to hear.
Give it a second thought.
Yeah. Like I said, in the however many years, 15 years I've been doing this, I've never had anyone appeal a decision. So
So
don't
does
jinx it.
the extra $50 you get for pond permits go to us?
It can. No. But we do need to discuss that too at some point in time.
Yeah.
Is ponds being taken over by the surveyor's office rather than our office. But that is mainly because, again, you don't want to detour people from doing development, but we've not increased our fees since 2009. There's not been any increases or changes. So,
And you're more than welcome to deal with all the ponds.
We don't have any fees.
yeah, you should though. Because you're doing more engineering work on it than we are. We're kind of the gatekeeper of it all. Mm-hmm. But.
Well, you plan to change some of your fees this next year coming up, don't you?
We gotta create a whole ordinance and everything. Like, we don't have any, it's just, we've started the process. It's just a long process.
Yeah, I talked to Michelle and it said that we got to get more money coming in first of all and have our fees. So you might as well include that in on your ponds so that you can.
But then who gets $150, Chris or us?
Well, we do. Yours would have your own, you'd have your own fees for your pond. You'd have your own pond permit fees. And you'd have your
So
own,
they'd have to pay him twice?
yeah. I mean, you could even have your own, commercial industrial development plan
Yeah.
fees too. That, if a new development comes in,
That's how, all
Right,
like
through
Noble
drain-
County's that way,
Right.
or now and everyone else, so
yeah.
we'll get there.
Well, and really, as we've discussed before, this is try to be more reflective of the effort that's required
Yeah.
administratively to execute these things. So I think
Yeah.
these increases are reasonable and studied.
I think we'll probably have a little kickback on increasing our fees for subdivisions. We're doubling that cost from 150 to 300, or I'm proposing we do that. Again, I don't want to detour the development, but the time it takes to review these, there's 2 or 3 really good surveyors in DeKalb County that work in DeKalb County that, there's might be 1 email correspondence back to them for something to revise, but some of it's 4 or 5 emails back and forth on, here's the 10 things you need to fix. All right, here's 5 things you missed on that list of 10. Here's the 2 things you missed on that list of 5. Here's the 1 thing you still haven't changed. So, yeah, the cost incurred is more than just, oh, thanks for your application, we'll get it to plat committee. And it doesn't even cover the cost of the members of the plat committee. It's just, if we want to do that, we'd be looking at, I can't do the math in my head, but 70 times 5 is
$350.
$350, plus then the time of us, which is probably, $150, $200. We're looking at $550 for a 1-lot subdivision, which I don't think is entirely fair, but we can talk, that's a whole different discussion.
If there's no more discussion, I'd entertain a motion on the fee schedule changes.
And these would take effect today, by the way, because this is in your rules of procedure. It's not in our zoning ordinance, so it would just take effect today, like a change in your rules.
I move to approve the revised DeKalb County fee schedule.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve the revised fee schedule. We have a roll call vote, Alicia?
Jason Carnahan,
Yes.
Frank Pulver,
Yes.
Bill Van Wy,
Yes.
Glenn Crawford,
Yes.
Jerry Yoder,
Yes.
Suzanne Davis, Angie Holt.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Next on our agenda is a discussion of a couple proposed UDO amendments.
I had a conversation, and I've talked to Angie on a couple things before, but I wanted her to expound on how we do our findings of fact. I know it's not on the agenda, but I think it's important for some discussion. These amendments are things that have been on my list for a while, so I know she had talked to Jason and talked to Andrew about this, and I wanted to give her a chance to kind of, as a newbie that is a year old, give her a chance to kind of talk about and get the Plan Commission's thoughts on how we do our findings.
So I wanted to at least put out an idea for consideration as I've been here for the last year and have really been listening and watching, and how we do, in particular, our findings of fact that we go through the 5 questions, and normally the staff will write some statements on those 5 points, and that we do this round robin approach of reading around the room. And it causes me some concern. I'm sure there are valid reasons for why we do it that way, and probably making sure that we have participation. I understand that trying to document and record the reasoning for our ruling, particularly if something's denied. But I have some concerns because, number one, it gives the impression that the comments written by the staff are, in fact, the opinions of the Plan Commission, and sort of segregating what that is. It's not really identified that this is the rulings of the staff. And although Chris and his staff are critically important to provide history and background and providing their level of expertise, really sort of distinguishing what that role is. And I think it's unfair to represent, especially in difficult, challenging decisions, to represent, to sort of blend the role of the staff and the Plan Commission and our decisions. I think secondarily, it isn't really all-inclusive, so if we only have one issue and we go halfway around the room, it doesn't include every member of the Plan Commission. And if someone on the Plan Commission if they're number 3 and they're expected to read number 3, that they may feel compelled to do that, even if they do or don't understand it, or if they do or don't disagree with it. So I think it puts some pressure on folks that might not be as willing to speak up, and if they have concerns. So, but I do think, I think with the last meeting we had, we didn't do it that way for a number of reasons. I think the way that meeting was led and that it ran, I think we went through point by point. I think we had good discussion. I think it went well in terms of how it should go and how discussion should go and how opinions should be formed. So I just propose that maybe we consider an alternative, and maybe other folks can chime in. I don't know what other Plan Commissions do. I want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence by the county, making sure we're expressing our opinions, that's getting recorded for the protection of the county, so that we can justify why we make our decisions, but there might be a better way to do it. So that would be welcome your thoughts, just for consideration.
I do agree with her. I mean, if you're standing out there, and I didn't realize how bad it sounded until I was at the BZA meeting the other day. And, I was sitting out there, and it just sounded...
Let's not say how bad it sounded.
Right? Okay, how incorrectly I thought it sounded.
There you go.
Politically correct. But I agree with her. The thing I'd like to see done, and this is my opinion, is say, okay, cover the points and let us put the words in between it. Like this is zone A1. Let us fill the words in instead of like we're looking down and reading it. Okay. Let us think, and because there's a couple times, it's been a while back, that I didn't agree with everything, which I voted no, but I yet read the lines, and I think you should have them there so that we can hit the high points, why we are doing it this way, why we zoning it, or, on something deal. But we should be able to put in our own words instead of reading a sentence by sentence.
Right. Yeah, and Andrew and I have talked about that, and I think Andrew has done a very good job when he reviews the findings of making sure that people have the opportunity. Now, whether you feel comfortable enough or not, that's maybe another topic of conversation. But Andrew does want people to express their opinions, that if you don't agree with what the finding is, or there's something more you want to say in that finding, feel free to. It is hard when you're caught up in the moment and you're here and their cameras are on you now and you're sitting there reading it, to kind of be like, oh, shoot, I wanted to make sure I got that point across. One thing I wanted to mention is in Cass County and Logansport, when I worked there, the members of the Plan Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals, we took about 5 minutes of time. And you know how we have the findings of fact sheet that get passed out to each of you at the meetings? They're blank. And you write in your own findings, and those findings get put as part of the minutes. Your sheet gets put in as part of the minutes versus it being stated or read aloud. I know that when your dad, David, was the attorney, he liked having the findings read aloud so that the people, Jerry's nodding his head, yes, I agree that I think the findings should be, so people know why you're voting the way you're voting.
Yeah, and the findings weren't wrote in for us. We had, each one of us had to discuss or tell our feelings on what we felt about that certain finding of fact. But I've never really took that, what you've been doing, I really didn't take that. I just kind of took it as a bullet point that and if I had a disagreement on what you guys or the staff had put in there, I would usually bring it up or state something. So I didn't really have a problem in that, but I do agree with Angie. It does sound a little bit rehearsed while we're doing is reading the finding of facts.
Wasn't that all, David introduced that just so for participation?
Part of it was a participation thing. Is there from my, and I'm getting this history and the people that have been here longer than maybe you three.
Yeah, so if you
or
don't
even
do any
you too,
of that,
maybe.
you can say, okay, Chris says he's in favor, so we all go, oh, okay. But,
It was to have more participation. And you might
But
have
I
a little
agree it's
history of your
awkward.
dad.
I'm glad Angie brought it up. I mean, I've sensed the awkwardness of it, kind of like having people feel like they have to say what's in there.
Yeah.
So I like the idea that we're discussing a change to it. I would think that there should be some discussion of the issues before you vote. I mean, that would be the one thing you'd want to avoid is having no discussion of the issues before
But
you
isn't
vote.
that what we're doing in the process? That's what we're supposed to do in the process, isn't it?
During the process,
So by
you mean during the process of the case?
By the time we get to that point, we should be able to say, okay,
Oh, I see.
Susan's in favor of it, I'm not. So I'm not going to say yes because she said yes. That's not why I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here to, my responsibility is to the county.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you vote no, it doesn't mean that because
You're not looked down on.
Right. But, and also in Cass County, we had 2 votes. It would be a vote to approve or deny the case,
Yeah.
and then a vote to approve or deny the majority of the findings. So the majority of the findings are, you could vote no on the project, but you're voting yes on the majority of the findings, because the majority of the findings are what's going to be held up
I mean
in
by
court.
majority of the findings.
So,
Because you said they wrote them all out,
right, so.
then they voted on those
And then they
handwritten
voted on
findings.
those handwritten findings. So you are, basically, you're agreeing with
Everybody else's
everybody
findings?
else's findings.
So they'd pass them around and read them?
No, they didn't pass them and read them. They just gave them to staff, and you just agreed with, you are.
How do you know what you were agreeing to then?
Well, because the findings of fact have to be voted, you have to vote on your findings.
Okay.
Well, that brings up my question, which is, do we discuss each one and kind of vote on each one separately? Okay, here's finding number 1, and we all agree on it. Here's finding number 2, and we're like, maybe not, we don't all agree on that.
So you could
And
do
so
each.
the majority of it is like, if we agree on 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5, how are we going to do that?
The Plan Commission, that's easier to do than the Board of Zoning Appeals, which we probably need to have this discussion with the Board of Zoning Appeals separate, because we're on Jerry-ish, Jason on it. Is that with the Board of Zoning Appeals, you have to vote, if you check the wrong box, you have to vote no or you have to vote yes. Even if you don't agree with it, does it comply or does it morals, general welfare of the community, if it, meets that standard, even if you don't like the project, you still have to vote Yes, does that make sense? But in the plan commission, you're paying reasonable regard to those findings, so you can do that. You can say, I agree that it meets the comprehensive plan, but it doesn't, but it impacts property values. Something. So you could do it that way. Mike's not here. Don, how does the city of Auburn do their findings?
He's not here either.
Oh, he left.
I didn't see him leave either, but he's definitely
Okay,
not
well,
there.
sorry, he's not here.
Unless he laid down sleeping.
When Amy Schweitzer was here, I asked her how they did theirs, and I'm assuming they do it the same way is they have theirs on their screen, and they have a better way to project things than we do here. It's not blinding the president, but where I believe they just read their findings and just agree to it, meaning.
Proposed staff findings? Or
Yeah.
something? Or did they come up with their own findings?
No, they don't come up with their own findings. Staff proposes it, they project it on the screens, and then if they agree with it, I think that's how it's done. Not 100%.
So like after all the discussion, like
Yeah.
maybe Frank was talking about, there's all the discussion,
Could be.
and then those are the staff findings, and then they could decide whether they agreed with them or not.
Yeah. But I think we do need to come up with a new way. I don't,
Yeah.
and well, I don't want it to feel also like we're unprepared during meetings. I think during the solar discussion, if you all noticed, you probably did, I didn't supply a recommendation and didn't supply findings, more so because I wanted the plan commission to be able to make up the decision. And I thought we did a good job on the discussion of those findings, and I think everyone was prepared. There might be a case, though, where, it might be a simple rezone out by the airport, and everyone's like, well, this is gonna pass with flying colors, and then you're caught off guard because you gotta create your own findings. So it means that we might have to do a little bit more homework, if you will, or come.
We could do a modified
Yeah,
way where
I
you
don't know.
supply your findings, but we don't go round robin. and
Yeah.
I
we
agree. I
just
think the
allow a
staff
general-
findings are very helpful. I mean, you just bring a level of expertise
Yeah.
and history
Right,
that especially a newbie might
And
not
some
have. But
findings
then
are-
we
yeah.
can agree or disagree or ask questions on that point by point.
Yeah.
I like the idea of Suzanne to go item one and then address it each point. But I think what you provide is valuable, but I think
Okay, good.
highlighting it is, these are the staff findings.
Yeah.
Do we have any comments or questions
Yeah.
or agree or disagree with that? I wouldn't
Yeah.
take that away. That is
Yeah.
incredibly
And
valuable.
I do highlight, or not, I don't highlight it, but we do it on the findings state that they are proposed, that they're not final until adopted or passed by the plan commission. But, yeah, I've had this thought for a while, and I was talking to Angie about it when she brought it up. And I was like, it's something that I wanted to discuss. I just never knew how to bring it up without it sounding like, I don't know. So,
Well, and I talked to Angie some, and some of the stuff that we do is basically, are we checking boxes? And if we're checking boxes, we can't really say no. So you got to have
Some of it
something
is.
to discuss.
Right.
So you having your stuff in there, I mean, yes, that checks the box. There's not really
Right.
much discussion.
right.
Especially like at plat committee.
Right.
You already bring it, we're not voting no, pretty much.
Can't.
Right.
Right.
So plat committee is just kind of, we're just there.
Yeah.
We hear it.
And there are
but-
things that for development plans and plat committee, if they meet every standard of the ordinance, well, first off, they have to meet every standard of the ordinance or they can't come to you anyway. They would have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals first and then come to you. If the Board of Zoning Appeals approved it, you have to approve what the Board of Zoning Appeals gave a variance for. If the Board of Zoning Appeals denies it, they can't come to you with that setback difference. So there's some things I think as a plan commission to discuss too, as far as administrative approvals on things where, but then you're getting into the predicament sometime, maybe, if you don't have somebody on staff that's capable, knowledgeable, they're part of the financial interest of a project that want to get it approved, that they've just stamped the approval. Some of you are shaking your heads that could be an issue in the future. So sometimes it is just checking the box of, sorry, you guys might not like it in the audience type of thing, but, they're meeting every standard of the ordinance, so we have to approve them.
I think one thing that I went up to a number of years ago, up to Steuben County to argue on behalf of somebody in front of their plan commission. And I don't feel like their plan commission, I mean, they would discuss things if they object or ask a question about it, if there was something questionable, but they didn't have hardly any discussion, and then they'd vote on it. But that's, I think, but as an attorney going in front of them, and I think you've seen that probably more with attorneys than with just regular people, regular citizens applying and coming. The attorneys will go down through each of those 5 items and try to have evidence backed up on each item, because that's what we're taught to do as attorneys is, you got to meet these 5 things. Most people don't realize when they come here what they all have to meet. I mean, they might have seen it, but they don't realize, hey, we better give the Plan Commission or BZA evidence on each point. It's easier for us if somebody comes up and gives evidence on all these points, then we've got evidence that backs up what, the findings on it too.
Yeah.
But
And a lot of people don't realize going to the Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial act. And, the burden of proof lies on the petitioner to supply the evidence that they've met or why they need this variance or this special exception. Same with the Plan Commission. It's up to them to determine. They have the burden of proof to prove that they're meeting the standard of the ordinance. We supply the staff report, so that's kind of, we're the researchers on that, if you will, but yeah.
I'm in favor, as the attorney for the Plan Commission and BZA, I'm in favor of making a change from the more awkward process. And we may have to figure it out and tweak it as we go too, I don't know. But
That was my additional comment, is we don't necessarily have to make a decision today. We can give it some thought, we can do some more research, and if we try and it doesn't work, we can try something else, right? There's nothing written in stone.
Right.
That we could go back to the way we did it if we feel like that worked better.
And I think that to kind of a mashup of everything that I've heard is still supplying maybe bullet point style, less paragraph written information to you guys, that you guys can create your own sentences or paragraphs out of my bullet points, or to Suzanne's point is each thing gets discussed, and do we all agree on this? Yes. Okay, we'll move to the next finding.
mm-hmm.
Lucky for you all, we don't have anything coming forward that I'm aware of for January. So I'm not sure when this change could take place, but
It's never been the case where, like, if you have point 5, you can't speak on point 1 through 4 either. But it always seems like just the one person that has it is the one person that talks.
It's just psychologically,
and nobody
it
else will
forces
speak,
everybody to feel that way.
Yeah, and that's never
I
been.
agree with that.
That's never been the case. And I think Andrew usually says, you don't have to agree with these or say what you want or,
probably
whatever
have
on each one, but nobody usually has like cross comments or whatever, which
That's why it went really well at Solar. For that particular hot button issue, it worked really well that everybody participated, had their own statements, and even though it was 4-4, it showed everybody was awake and thinking and applying their logic, and they're trying to do the best for the community.
yeah.
But I like the idea of changing it, and I think it'll maybe look better to the public too.
I agree.
I agree, and I thank Angie for bringing this up. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think the next time we have something where there's findings of facts needed, just do it like you said, put some bullet points in and let's try it and see what happens.
Will do.
Unless it's a really important thing with a lot of people.
Then give you some more bullet points.
Oh, start on
Extra
that
bullet
side.
points.
Let's go.
We'll go backwards around.
Yeah, go
Start with
backwards.
Suzanne or
around. That's
Andrew.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's the way we do it.
Yeah.
This is for Andrew. I really appreciate your dad. When I first started, we had it, he would read each one, and there would be no answers in there. And some of them was, on some cases, were pretty airy to answer them the way you felt was appropriate. And your dad would just step right in and he'd clarify it and take it under control, and it just run smooth. He was really good at that.
I feel like Chris's proposed findings help out on that. On some of the
Right.
ones that are harder to understand, Chris is able to kind of put a good phrase on it.
So,
And your dad would also, and I really appreciate him when he's down here too, is also would put on the fact that if you weren't making it completely clear, he would clear it up for you.
so is that what we need to do? We go through our bullet points and have a little discussion or whatever, and then we have Andrew, like, come up with a collective official statement for the record? I mean, is that an official finding, or how we gonna get to that? Because we have to have them recorded, right?
Yeah, well, you got to have them in your minutes. I think that if there's things that would be discussed amongst that aren't in the bullet points, we would just add it as a bullet that, you know.
Because maybe the problem is not
this
the
comply with the
bullet
comprehensive-
points,
right.
it's how it's presented to the public and how we discuss it.
Right. It's not, it's not
That's
the
the bullet points is a problem.
I was just questioning how it had to be
Yeah.
in the official
minutes.
minutes.
That's a good
It
question.
could, and it could be bullet points in the minutes. There's not, it doesn't state anywhere that you have to have a paragraph of.
Right, well, that was I was questioning, is how it had to be presented in the minutes for the record.
Yeah, you could just do bullet points, I think, and
And I don't know how we say the motions on it, like motioning to approve this along with the findings or something. Maybe we need to be
Yeah, I think we need to
explicit
look at
on
that,
saying
too.
both of those.
I riffed up my minutes.
Well, and as I'd
How our
spoken
minutes are done in the past.
with Andrew before, is particularly if he's observing and sees that we could potentially deny something and we're not articulating adequately
try to
the
jump in
record,
and-
he can
Yeah.
try to make sure that we are fulfilling our duty and articulating what our findings are, if he feels we're lacking on
Yeah.
those points perhaps.
I can mirror it back in slightly different wording and see if that helps.
Yeah, and we probably need to revise how we have our all capitalized, therefore it be a whatever that
Okay.
we recommend approval, or the BZA approves, that something we have in there that we are
Also approving the findings.
approving the findings, or, yeah.
Yeah, good to revisit that.
Yeah. Good.
How do we want to go to these amendments?
Does everyone feel comfortable with that? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine moving forward with this, or we can discuss it at the next meeting. I know Mike had to leave. Jerry has to get out of here. I don't want to keep you guys. We've been here for an hour. If we can move forward with this, we can, or if you want to wait till January, we can have a meeting in January.
Frank? Bill?
Crucial that I
No, I think, and I'm fine with, if everyone would be okay with having a meeting in January. I have nothing on the docket for a public hearing. We can have a meeting in January to do election of officers, committees, assignments, and then I can bring these two items forward for discussion.
I wanted to bring up that I went to a Garrett meeting last night, and I don't know if you had any information. Garrett has taken on a tremendous process. They have a metal recycling, if you, for lack of a better term, facility coming in. It's going to be 79 acres south of, on Fuller Drive, that goes back to the old Fleetwood plant, for the Fleetwood mobile home. That farm back there, 79 acres, this is a $400 million project. It is huge. South of, on Fuller Drive, off of State Road 8. It used to be, was the old Handshoe Farm. It includes, there's a 79 acres there that they have purchased, and They're going to build this state-of-the-art processing facility. I think Glenn's aware of it as well. But it is, when the $400 million number came out, I'm like, wow, this is said potentially 125 people as employees. The wages were substantial. It's pretty amazing. Fort Wayne turned it down. Well, that was my question. That was my very first question. When somebody turns something down, I want to know why, and sometimes those guys they're not always happy I'm there, because they'll look right at me. Milton will look at me. You got a question? I say, yeah, I do. Why did Fort Wayne turn it down? It's a steam process. So supposedly the byproduct, the negative byproduct is minimal, because Pat Kleeman immediately asked about discharge into the sewer system. And he gave a good answer, but it was more politically correct than, But nonetheless, as far as for DeKalb or for Garrett, there's quite a tax boost. And for DeKalb County, I mean, you're talking 100 plus, obviously quite good paying positions. So, but Fort Wayne turned it down, and there was no real good reason as to why. It may have been the location, maybe where they wanted to put it. Where they're proposing to put it is like, you wouldn't even know that was there. I mean, that is really.
Yeah, there's nothing back in there.
No. And they're gonna have a boundary, border, trees, the whole.
Did they say who the buyer was?
The company? Yeah, they did, but I don't, it's, 4 letters and LLC, who's this? I don't know. But when I asked afterwards, the meeting, I asked Milton, I said, can I ask him a question? He said, of course you can, meeting's over. So I said, you're downstream from Metal X, and so they've already separated the metals, which is copper, aluminum, zinc, other precious metals that we need to recycle. Right now, the process is all of that goes offshore to Malaysia or someplace. They smelt it down. It goes to China. They reprocess it, and we buy it back. So now they're eliminating, and that's done here. Good deal. But I asked him who his sources were. He just looked at me. And I said, you're not going to tell me that, all right? He goes, no. I said, so well, that will be announced at a further date. I said, okay. And then I thought, well, this guy doesn't know who I am. I could be the opposition. He's not going to give me his sources. So I asked Milton about it afterwards, and he goes, that's the reason he did that. They're very close to the vest on that sort of thing. But it's a tremendous, I mean, there's parts of this are going to be 150 foot tall.
It's taller than the buildings in downtown Fort Wayne.
Yeah. Well, if it's the operation, I think it's a steam operation is what, it's a rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, of course, they brought up bag houses, and anytime you mention bag houses, I get a little uncomfortable.
What are bag houses?
Bag houses are a filtration and cleaning system. And Steel Dynamics has a bag house that stopped operating about 3 months after they opened.
They stopped putting
They just
filters
pay
in
the
that.
fine.
They just pay the fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They stopped replacing stuff.
Because
in
it
that.
doesn't work, or because it's too expensive?
It's more
They don't-
expensive
they
to
don't
update
use
it and fix it.
So they were very positive about the after, what do I want to say, the byproduct as being a negative. And afterwards, as I talked to Milton and I talked to Pat Kleeman, who would have the biggest concern because he's in charge of waste. So he seemed to be real comfortable with it. So. But the positives for the county and for the city of Garrett are incredible. And for, you know, possible employees in this county, I mean, that's, you know, but bag houses always scare me. No, there's nothing wrong with them.
There's a reason that they want them to have them, though.
Yeah. Well, it's because the magic term in all of this was item. And I thought, well, you know, they're like a bunch of pit bulls. So,
Sure.
you know, it's going to be monitored pretty closely. But again, the bad experience is that those who have bag houses and don't maintain them, which is exactly what's happened over there.
Right.
And
And you just pay the
when
pollution
you
fine.
can pay a fine at the level of the fines that they pay, and it doesn't make any difference, that's concerning. Because the amount of emissions over there is far more than anybody knows.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a whole nother ballgame, but nobody's gonna step up and do anything about it. So, you're close, you know. But again, the Garrett, couple of people that I feel that are pretty much on top of it didn't seem to be too concerned about it, because it's not fired at steam.
So
So
that's,
essentially what they're just cleaning, you know, they're not starting with a old television set and melting it down and seeing what they got left. They're already gonna have the byproduct that they want. It's just a matter of cleaning it to a certain degree, which is far better than starting from scratch. So whoever's doing that part, those are the ones who would be concerning, but it's quite a project. Like I said, when I heard the $400 million number, I'm like, that's big time.
so that's twice the investment of the solar project we just had to fist fight about, and like 1% of the acres and 100% more employment. And nobody even talked about it.
I know. I was going to bring that up, but I didn't. I'm glad you did. Well, and my direct question to the planning commissioner was, how is this not more information on this? And, you know, the public discussion lasted for about a minute and a half.
Right.
Closed. Boom.
Because no one was there to talk about it?
Oh, if you were there to talk about it, you didn't get a chance.
Oh, really?
Now, one woman had a question, she's from Auburn. And she was asking about a bond issue. These people are going to spend $400 million. What do we need a bond issue for? You know, they're spending the money. So I didn't understand that at all. But that was end of public discussion. I thought, well, no, this is, boom. Now, but you must have read my mind, because I'm thinking exactly the same thing.
Maybe I should have muted.
How did we get to this point? I mean, there's a lot of pluses, but there could be some minuses. The only minus is if you do what you're supposed to do, there shouldn't be any minus.
Right.
So 40 million ton a year that they'll process. 40 million.
Wow.
And he says, well, we don't need a railroad spur. I'm like, you're 40 million ton? And you don't need I said, no, we don't need one. Because then that's a whole new ballgame, I guess, from a cost standpoint, it's astronomical. And there's one right, there's that one company right there that has a
Right there.
spur.
Yeah. I'm surprised they don't
Where's all that?
need one or want one.
So they said
that
they
come
can
off of State
partner
Road
with
8
them
to
on
Fuller
their spur,
Drive?
should they need it.
I'm assuming
But so
they would
that
come
means,
down. I'm assuming it's
that's
down
gonna be
there.
traveling out onto 8, onto 69 somewhere. 40 million ton.
Wow. Interesting.
Yes. It's literally state of the art. From what I gathered and what I was able to pick few brains, there's like maybe one other facility like this in the United States. But it, for however long, all of this has been going offshore to some third world country, then winds up in China, and then comes back and we're buying it back when we had it to begin with. Like we do so many other things, but
That makes you wonder about the negative.
well, there's not very many regulations in a lot of,
That's what I mean. They're not worried about the pollution side of it.
no, they're not, but, no,
They're worried about dollars and
yeah. But anyway, I just thought it was worth bringing up. Garrett wins another one. We get fast food restaurants. They get industry.
any more discussion or reports from officers or whatever?
I got one thing, not, on your public nuisance ordinance, I've had 2 complaints in the last month. One is down on County Road 3. I don't have the addresses with me, but it's a mile out of Waterloo on 35. Like, there's a complaint of all these junk cars on one of this place that's a mile out of north of Waterloo. And the other one is, they were supposed to send me the address of the guy, but it's on County Road 27. Someone put a kennel in there. It's north of County Road 20 there, I think it's the second house. I didn't have the address, but I'll get the address. But they said, and I'll get that and I'll get it to you. I've had people complain about that too, because they didn't know that they could put a kennel in there without the right ordinance. So they wanted us concerned about that. Do you know about the one at Waterloo there?
Junk cars north of Waterloo, I don't
Is
know
that
if I
come
know,
up?
is that, somebody talked to me about one and showed me a picture of, it's like almost a triangular, or a triangular piece of property or something.
I don't know what it's triangle, but it's got a.
And then is that the one junk cars are across the road?
No, it's all in the yard, but it's just the
Okay.
yard's starting
Then
to
I don't
fill
know
up
if I know
with,
that one.
with this completely. And I never noticed it. I don't pay no attention, but a couple people have called me and says, have you looked at this? And
Give me those addresses.
Yeah, I
I
don't think I
will.
know about that one.
I'll
Been
get it
one
to
on
you.
35 and 22.
What?
The one on 35
Yeah,
and
and
22.
22, yeah. You know what I'm talking about then?
By Bowman's Green Setup?
Yeah, just north of it. First place past Bowman's, first place.
Just south of it, southeast.
On the east side.
Yeah, right on the corner.
Northeast side of Bowman's setup. It's north of Bowman's, yeah.
Oh,
It's north of
further north.
22, yeah. Might be the second house, something up there, but yeah. Someone's complained about it, and I said, I'm not a commissioner, don't talk to me. So I didn't know if that was your deal, Chris, or.
If you give me the address, we can send them out.
Okay, I'll get both of them here sometime before the first of the year.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Anything else for the good of the cause? Do I need a motion to adjourn? I get a motion?
Second.